Ryze fam? Welcome to another edition of On The Ryze. It's me again, your boy B. We got your girl Ashley, and we're bringing you somebody real special today. Yo, we got Smitty The Creator. Y'all might know him as God's Pen. Y'all might know him as Smitty. This dude is a producer, a very successful entrepreneur. This guy, we are so happy to bring him to you so that you can learn more about him, how things work. Realize how much of a business this thing is, even if it's a game and if it's some fun for some. There's a lot of work that goes into this, and my man right here, this is a pool of knowledge that you're going to want to listen to. So we're so happy to bring them to you. So once again, thanks again for joining us today, Mr. Smitty. How you doing today?
Man, I'm blessed, man. You know, getting myself together last night with touches on Snoop and Dre album that they doing, 30th anniversary. So going back, I had a lot of different ideas, and just me trying to keep my mind open so I can learn as much as I need to, because I'm actually at a point in the process that's above my knowledge of the game. I've only, I got a couple hit records here and there, but nothing like what these guys have accomplished. So a lot of times, even though we're creating, I'm listening and learning from a lot of the stories they telling me about, Doggy Style and, the Chronic, and just how they got to this point. I get in awe sometimes that I'm a part of the situation. So, that's where I'm at today, taking it all in. So it's good to talk to you guys today, because I'm coming fresh off a campfire of stories.
I love that. So actually, I kind of have a question about that. You say that, you're on a new level of learning. Well, for someone that doesn't, so I'm in a band, but I don't know how to like pinpoint things or hear things. How do you hear like certain things that are off, or like something that you want, or like something that you think the artist should change?
Okay, so that's a great question, actually, because it's funny. I don't mind referring to Dre, because he's such an institution of knowledge. I remember one time he was mixing, and I was at the board, and I hear him make these adjustments, and I'm watching why he makes the adjustments. So as he's making them, I'm taking it as a technical thing, right? And this one day we get a long time in that same box, and I'm like, yo, why did you turn that up like that? Or why did you give that more high frequency or mid? And he keeps saying, this is what he says, I don't know, it's just a feel. So he said first time, and the first time I'm thinking he just don't want to explain, his secret sauce. Yeah. I'm like, okay, that's one. The second time it happens again, like, why did you do that? It's just me learning. He goes, I'm not even lying to you. It's just a feel. You got to feel it. So, I digest that. And then when I start, working on other projects with other artists and having to be that almost like that maestro, where I'm finding the producer and I'm finding the writer and I'm giving them the concept and I'm being a collaborative, I start to realize that instinct has to be developed like a muscle, right? So when you're working on your own stuff, back to your question, the best thing for you to do is to improve that instinct actually when you're outside of the studio, right? So some people call it women's intuition. You have an intuition and a feel about something, right? And then once you exercise that feel on a frequency, now when you do have a guitar riff or a track or a certain lyric, that you have to bring that instinct into the room. It's not a separate thing. I tell people all the time, life and music is synonymous, right? I don't believe you can get writer's block, because all you got to do is go sit at Starbucks and people watch. And it's a story every 5 minutes walking by you, right? You just have to recognize that that's a song that guy dropping the coffee, having a long day's work and dropping the coffee because he's tired. That's a record, right? But so most people in this day don't recognize that as being a record, because, we've been kind of vacuumed into a radio song or a dance song or a shake song. But that's the beauty of country. That's why I love country music so much, because there's such a whole nother landscape of records that are smash records that have nothing to do with being in the club or popping a bottle or, and that's all good too. Or, driving my Lamborghini. Really, you go back to Eric Clapton, you go back to, just the Beatles and just Aretha Franklin. Every record was about life. RESPECT, finds out what it means to me. And as creators, our job is to bring that life into the studio. And that life is really your instinct into the studio. I bring that instinct in, and that goes back to Dre, where he says a feel. and you just keep trying to apply that feel. And if it's foreign right now, that's okay. But go practice having that feel by, again, sitting in Starbucks and just having an instinct about people.
That is really great advice. I never would have thought that either, how you brought in the Starbucks thing, because it is true. I mean, you see some things. I mean, I do have another question for you though. So I kind of, you know, snooped around on you and was like, I noticed that you started at a young age.
Yeah.
Is there anything you could tell kids nowadays? Because I've actually been meeting a lot of kids that want to get into the music industry, whether it be to write, to play, to be in a band, or to produce or anything. Is there any insight you can give them?
Yeah, definitely. The first insight I would give them, because it's a different time now, right? Back when I got into the game, there was no social media, there was no internet like that, right? So the first thing a kid has to recognize is, ask yourself this question: do I want to be famous or do I want to be a creative? That's two different things that you have to discern that. So for kids, you have to figure that out, because right now it's the same thing, right? So people are using music to become famous. That's not how it's supposed to go, right? So the first thing, let's separate that, because you can be famous for being a brain surgeon. You can be famous for being the mayor of a city. You can be famous for a lot of different things, but it seems like the quickest way to that top of that mountain is obviously a hit record. No doubt. Great experiences. I've had them a couple times. Trust me, I would not take that experience from anybody. But I would tell all my young listeners that actually determine if you're good at making music. And you do that by going outside your family members, going outside of your comfort zone. I know for me, just to give background, I didn't know if I was gonna do this at this level in life. But one thing that showed me, I was in college at the time, which I barely made it to college. I don't know, I had like a CD average the whole time. Shout out to Florida A&M University. They accepted me, they saw something in me. And I got to college uncomfortable, didn't want to be there. And I just, I was freestyling. Like, that was something that came naturally to me. So it was just me having, just my spare time, just rapping. So one day this guy comes to me, and he's from Howard University. And he's like, man, I've never heard anybody freestyle like you. You should come to Howard University, which is an HBCU historical that's in DC. He was like, listen, if you get there, you can sleep with me. You can, sleep on my couch. We just gonna go battle other dudes, because Howard is historically known for having great rappers, whether it's Diddy, Puff Daddy, Con. Everybody went to Howard. So when I go to Howard, I remember I had to catch a bus. I didn't have the money to get on the plane back then. And I start battling everybody. I'm like, wait, I think I'm kind of good at this. This is weird, because I thought I was gonna go there and meet people who would be better than me, because I'm coming out. I just thought I was good in my square. So when I came back from Howard and I went to a couple of Morgan State, Howard. I'm just battling everybody, and it's clear people are telling me, yo, I think you should take this serious. Like, you're really good. And then when I went back to Florida A&M, I now had this confidence of, this is what I'm going to do. It's almost like a voice from God told me, this is what you're going to do. This is you. Like, it fit. So for me, I had those experiences that let me know, hey, this is what you should be doing. This is your calling in life, which made me say, okay, I'm going to do this. I had no idea you could become famous or make millions doing that. Like, my family was mad at me that I really dropped out of school and drove to California. Like, I didn't drop out, but my junior year at Florida A&M, that's when I drove to Los Angeles. And I was going to come back to school that fall. And I was like, well, if it don't work out this summer, I'll come back that fall. And I ended up never, I'm still in LA now. I never came back. Shout out to Florida A&M, though. I got to go get my degree one day. But I'm a college dropout. But at the end of the day, I'm not promoting that. But at the end of the day, I was divinely introduced to my purpose in life. And I had to go do my due diligence. I had to go do that exercise. I had to take that journey. So to get back to the question, take the journey to realize if music is your thing. And you're generally going to be doing talent shows, and you're going to be everywhere doing your thing. And people are just going to tell you that's what you should be doing. If nobody's telling you that's what you should be doing, then, you know what I mean? You don't have to use music to be famous. There's a million other ways. And that's all it is. Kids are just trying to figure out how can I get popping? How can I get a YouTube channel? And it seems like if I turn on auto-tune and get a beat, it'll get me there quicker. And they probably right. They probably right. But does that answer the question a little bit?
All right. So no, I like that. And that leads me into what something else I was thinking about too. You've had the opportunity to work with so many different people, which means you have different personalities that you have to deal with, different situations. Uh,
Yes.
can you let our viewers know how important it is to have a good reputation and professionalism about yourself? That way, your name, like when you approach someone, you go, hey, I'd like to be able to work on that album for you. Your
Right.
reputation has basically already gotten the door open for you, and how important that is.
Oh, great question, man. You guys got good questions. So I would say like this, and I don't want to be long-winded, but I don't want to be short either because it's an important question. You got to guard your reputation with everything, right? That's just life, period, right? But the thing is, how do you guard that? So if I'm talking to somebody, like we know you got to guard your reputation, meaning, I got to make sure my clothes clean, keep a haircut, wear new Jordans. That's a superficial level of reputation, which you should do that too. But you get to a point where there's an almost your reputation with yourself, right? Your internal like how you feel about yourself, your reputation with when nobody's looking reputation. That's the conversation, right? So I'm not gonna get too deep, but it for me, I can only give my testimony of how I realized I had to guard my reputation because I was living with a superficial reputation, but didn't realize I was taking shots with my internal reputation, and I was uncomfortable with that. So let me give an example. So I may get able to write for a new act. This has happened for me. I'm not gonna say no name. And the new act may be promoting like, bang, bang, shoot 'em up. I'm killing everything moving. Cool. If that's that artist's truth and he really out there living like that, let's get in the studio. I've had, I've had artists I work with that's really on that type of time. And I enjoy creating with them. I just pray for the best when they go out and about. But if I know this particular artist, that is not his truth, he's just doing what it takes to get this deal and talking crazy, I had to get to a point where I realized I don't want to be a part of that type of project because that affects my reputation creatively in my craft. So when I do walk in the room with these goats and these legends and these giants, they're going to look at me like, why should they take my opinion about what they're doing seriously when I haven't even taken myself seriously enough to know that that project he was just working on was disingenuous and inauthentic, right? So now you work with this kid who you knew was disingenuous and inauthentic, and then he becomes the pariah of the industry because he snitches or whatever, you know how this industry goes. Now he's not hot no more. Now you got a hit record that you've been out there, proud and loud about. And now you want to put those plaques away because he's no longer cooler in the industry. And now you got to walk in a room with your peers who are like, didn't you work with that? Wasn't that your such and such and such? So now I have to realize, wait, my reputation is what I wasn't guarding by going to get the check for artists that I truly didn't believe in. See, that's when we're getting deeper into you guarding your own reputation because you're going to have another opportunity when you are in the room with these Quincy Jones and baby faces and you know what I mean, Ty Dolla Signs and whoever that I've been blessed to work along with, and you want them to look at you eye to eye and say, yo, I heard what you did with such and such. I heard that record you did with Pop Smoke, or that record with such and such. Yo, now they're open, their spirit's open to take my collaboration and what I can give to them creatively because they respect what I've done prior to them. And that came with me guarding my reputation on an internal level, which I had to learn because again, when I was a young dude getting in the game, you offer me $20,000 to write 4 songs, I'm picking these checks up. Like I don't care who these guys are. Again, I'm in my 20s at that point. So, that money come and go. And then when that money gone, and now you got to go in this room and prove yourself again. You're like, why I got to prove myself, right? I remember one time we was in Vegas, right? So we was rocking out for like 3 months. This is when Dre was working on Detox at that time, which, that's always a work in progress, but that may never come out. But that's not the point. the point is, we've had a lot of different runs where we would lock in, go to a city, lock in 3 months, and we fly out the best writers and fly out the best producers. So we're all in Vegas. I remember we stand at the Wynn Hotel. The cars all coming to pick us up at the same time. And I mean, like, the writers of writers were there, from Sean Garrett, Bink, The Dream, just anybody you could think that's a writer. Meek Mill came through, Jadakiss, just everybody in there was writers of writers of writers, right? So I'm like, you know, they're just working on records, laying verses. And I look at myself and I go, man, how did I become the low man on the totem pole here when, you know, technically I have just as many successes as these guys as far as number one records and things. And I felt like, damn, you know, I was a little demoralized. So I go back to my hotel room and I realized, man, this is my opportunity to reinvent my reputation, because my reputation was coming from a guy who, you know, had a song, Diamonds on My Neck. And I was signed to Clive Davis. So people really looked at me as more of a pop. You know, Clive Davis represents Whitney Houston, Aretha Franklin, Fantasia. So I was looked at as a rapper that's under that umbrella. I'm more of a pop guy, right? I'm not really in the culture like a rapper. So I was like, It's like, again, God speaking to me. That's why I call it God speaking, because I always get a voice within these private moments. And I was like, okay, this is your opportunity to reinvent your reputation. And I remember for that 3-month block, I was jumping from room to room to room, knocking out demos. I didn't care who the producer was. I didn't look up. I didn't care who was in the room. I'm knocking out. And it got to the point, by the time that thing was over, they had requested, of all the artists that were there, and these guys can vouch, whether the Jadakiss, my boy, all of you, by the time we got to the end of that, they had requested, nah, we only want to rock with Smitty. We only need him. And there's no disrespect in them. They had their own thing going on. You know, these are all great creators. But at that particular point, what I believed in and the approach that I had took actually got me to the end, where I actually was the only writer in the room once we got to the end. From the rap side of it, it's just like me and Sean Garrett towards the end. We ended up going to Miami and everything. And no, beautiful experience. I'm just stating that at that point, me understanding that I had to reinvent my reputation put me to the point of now where I do have a reputation to stand on, but I understood that needed to happen. So that's what I would tell to the young guys when it comes to your reputation. Respect yourself first and be able to look in the mirror first on what you're writing about, what you're talking about, what you're working on, what you're giving, how are you impacting what you're writing. If you just shoot them up, bang, bang, I got the stick, I got the mop, cool. If you out there doing that, I love it. But if you know you a good kid, you just got in trouble every now and then, you went to college, find a way to make that experience just as equitable as shoot them up, bang, bang, because your reputation depends on it.
I love that. That's well spoken. Another thing, like you were saying, professionalism. Do you remember the first time that you got into the studio with one of the big guys? Do you remember the difference between from perhaps an artist that you worked with before that wasn't quite there compared to when you walked into the studio with any one of the GOATs that you've worked with? You know, like you just walked in, it was like, boom, whoa. Like when I did this with this dude, it was like this. But when I got up in here, it was like
whoa, right. Yeah, that's a good question. Okay, so I remember, I got a lot of different stories. So I'll say this. Okay, so the first time I worked with Kanye, right? Kanye was more like, okay, so we do this record and we were having a hard time catching the record, right? So he was put in the studio with me to create a record. And we ended up creating a record called Ghetto with Scarface and John Legend. But at the time, John Legend wasn't John Legend yet. He was just John. And he was sitting on the couch signing good music. So at this time, Ye comes out with She Gives Me Money When I'm in Need. So Jamie Foxx, he gives this record to Jamie Foxx. Shout out to Jamie Foxx. He's healing up nice. I was just talking about him. He's healthy. Shout out to his family. And Breon Prescott at the time had put Kanye and Jamie Foxx together to make Marvin Gaye, Luther Vandross, couple of needs. So he doesn't really have time to work with me, but he's working with me because I'm with Clive Davis. So they get in the studio with me. Boom. And, you know, he's like, kind of like, why am I working with this kid? You know, I'm just signed. So it's not going as smooth as we like. And he's like, man, I'm telling you, do this record ghetto. I know they don't see it. Da, 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 da. So I basically walked back to the hotel and write the record, come back the next day, and he's like, this is the record. This is, you did your thing. He jumps on the hook, puts John Legend on the hook. Rest is history. Record goes out. Da, 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 does what it does for me at the time. I'm like, man, that was amazing. John Legend was nobody. Da, 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 da. Okay, skip to now. I'm in the studio with Dre and freaking the whole squad of whether it's Snoop and everybody and Hitman and all these people. Even when Nate Dogg was alive. So I was a young pup in that studio as well, and that was less emotions and feelings like Ye was, right? Ye was just it was all emotion. It was all, you gotta feel it, like almost like I explained in the first thing. But Dre's, that room was more like professionalism, clockwork. Every note has to be right. Everything has to be meticulously, thoroughly put together. And I was coming from this place of, it just gotta feel, you know, it's hip hop, you just gotta feel it, it gotta be off. And at that point, I had to relearn again, because I'm in this room full of these, you know, Mount Rushmores, and they're like, everybody's doing their part to perfection. Whether it's Scott Storch, whether it's, you know, anybody that's come from that camp, they were the best of their field. And even when they got with him, they took it to another level of perfection. So my professionalism turned up at that point, and I started to realize, okay, I got to get here an hour before everybody. I got to stay an hour after everybody. I got to be interested when they're doing ad-libs. I got to understand why that ad-lib is there. When he picks that beat, I got to understand why he picks that beat. When I can't just write one verse to say, oh, she should sing this. I got to write 4 different verses and then take the best parts of each verse and combine them to make it an undeniable thing. You see what I'm saying? So I had 2 different, it was 2 different things where it was like, in this box, it was like going to work for Steve Jobs. You know what I'm saying? And in the Ye box, it was like working along with, you know, a famous painter like Basquiat or somebody. Like, we just here to paint. We don't know what it's going to become, but it's going to be great art. And it was like, whoa, there is a freedom to that I enjoy. There is also the discipline of working with the you know, the way Aftermath and Dre runs, that gives its own freedom as well, because you know that this is going to hit a particular mark. Prior to with the artist Basquiat or Ye, it's like, well, we hope people like it, and if they don't, we don't care, because we're just creating. So I've learned that there's 2 different styles, and both of them I embody, and hopefully, you know, it's coming out in my energy now.
Yeah, no doubt. See, that's interesting. I think a lot of people in music don't understand the work behind it. Like, I've been on, like, I can open up my computer. I've got Ableton Live, for instance. You know what I'm saying? I can get on Ableton. I can make a beat here, there, something, throw up on YouTube.
Yeah.
But it's so intricate and different when you're, as a producer, trying to make magic out of that. Like, I can write a beat and it's great, dump, whatever. But then when you got the horns behind it, and you got the notes that's hitting at the same note that Mary J. Blige, for instance, you know, you got to match that sound with her voice. Not, you know, if she's singing in a note of A, you can't be having a note of Q -5 or something. You know, it's that, so like, much behind it.
I had to learn what being in the right key was, because when I was working with a guy like Ye, he don't care if it's off. He finds beauty in it not being the right key. He'll make the not the right key a whole nother sound, right? And then you'll go to this room with these guys, and if you come in and it's not in the right key, they almost look at you like, why, how are you in here? You don't understand what the key is. You know what I mean? So these are little things, like you're saying, I had to learn and become a professional about my craft, right? And not just be all about, like you say, it just feels, it's all a feel. And I get it, like we discussed earlier, instinct is vital. But that instinct matched with discipline is dangerous. It's unstoppable. So for my young listeners out there, instinct with discipline is the key. That's the secret sauce.
I also want to mention too, to the listeners as well, you constantly say you're always learning. It's not, you're always going to get it. You're always going to learn. And I love that. And I love how humble you are about that, because there's some people out there that think, you know, this is it, I got it, and it's this way, you know, and you're not like that. And that's fantastic.
Well, that's, you know, life has, you know, the industry has beat me up, right? So there's a time I had it all figured out, and that I was discussing that the other day. It's very hard. Like, you don't know what it's like for you to be 23, 24-year-old. You know, you get $1.5 million deal. You know, you got to understand, your family never even seen that type of money. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to get a financial accountant. They don't understand that you got to have a budget. They don't understand that that money's not going directly to your pocket. That money is for the totality of your project. So that's flights, hotels, food, cars. That's $1.5 million to deliver this project. That's not 1.5 in your pocket so you can throw it up and put it to your ear. But that's, you know, that's how your family thinks it is. So people in the hood think, oh, he got $1 million. No, you might only took a quarter of that. You might only took 250 from that. Well, you got to understand, okay, if that 250, tax man gonna take 50. That's if you're in LA. If you know, maybe you're in Florida, they only take 30. You know, we don't got to get into that. So after that, you pay your managers, you pay your lawyer. That's another 30% of that gone. You now down to a $1.75, maybe a $1.50, right? So you got to get yourself a car. You got to get yourself together. You're gonna spend 50 of that just making sure you look the part. You now have $100,000 left until you drop your album. That could take 2-3 years. So in hindsight, as a rapper, people make $100,000 or $80,000 a year. So if I had a job and I made $80,000 a year, well, that's $240,000 right there in 3 years. You had to live off $100,000 in 3 years while being famous, while having chains in a car and having to live this style. It's very hard to be a successful artist, a rapper at that. You know what I mean? Like other genres, you don't have to put on so much of a show, right? You can just be you, right? In country, I can just put on a hat and I'm making millions every day. Rappers, I got to do it all. I got to have the new Air Force Ones, new pair of Air Force Ones every day, new Lamborghini, new watch to live this life. And it's hard to portray that. So I say that me being an artist at one point and me transitioning into just being solely a creative, that was a decision that was made for me because I found it hard to maintain this rap lifestyle. The money wasn't enough for me to be a rapper. You see what I'm saying? And when I transitioned into producing and songwriting, the money came back tenfold, whole different money. So I'm explaining to my young people out there, understand the money as a rapper. There's only 2 out of 10 rappers that's gonna get 50,000 a night, 100,000 a night. The other 8 of them are struggling trying to keep their 2,000s and 3,000s coming in to keep the lights on until their album drops. If the album does not drop, which due to Google how many artists are signed that never come out, that's very normal. There's only one 21 Savage out of the other 20 Savages that didn't work. You see what I'm saying? And these guys have to survive off of maybe you got 250,000. Most guys, I've done production deals where my artist only got 50,000 and had to give 20,000 of that to management and everybody else until his album dropped. That's crazy. But at the same time, it's an opportunity. So if you coming from zero, you know, and I'm working a 9 to 5 and somebody give me 30,000, which again, I can't survive off that, but it's better than what I was doing. It's just a mindset. And to understand what you're signing up for will help you not go through what I went through, where I got beat up by this reality and then was forced to say, nah, I just rather produce and songwrite because I don't want to depend on being a successful rapper. I want to depend on my craft and my gift, which is being able to create great records. 2 different things.
I love that. I love that. Now, like I said, we won't keep you too much longer, but I do got a curious question. So, for me personally, I had one experience when I was as an unsigned artist. I had walked into a pizza joint and we had played a show the night before and it was a great show. And in the pizza joint, all the kids happened to be in there at the time. So me and my bassist walked in and the restaurant went silent. We didn't know why. You know what I'm saying? Until after the fact, when it was like, oh, we saw the show last night. We just didn't want to bother you. I was like, that was pretty interesting and intense. It made me kind of realize fame might not be all that it's cracked up to be. I'm just going to be honest. This is honest opinion.
Yeah.
Now, as a producer, okay, your name is out there, you're known, but you're not like Steve Jobs known, like, you
Yeah,
know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Have you found it easier for yourself in life to have that slight little bit of anonymity for you to live normally compared to, say, like Snoop, who
Yeah.
can't walk down into Walmart without
Right.
somebody rushing on him?
Well, again, great question. Y'all got good questions. And I'll say this, just I can only give my testimony. When you've never had your 15 minutes of fame, you deserve to have it. You should know what it feels like. This is the problem. And this is why most people that become unfamous have issues with just mental health. Because I will say this, and I don't want to dangle this carrot for the young listeners. There is no feeling like having a #1 record in the country, not even the world, just the country. Maybe I'm not a drug user, so maybe that high is similar, but because I don't, I'm not a drug guy, that high is a different high. And I've heard people who use say it's a different high. Can't take that away from you. This is the issue with that high. If you can keep it going, it's a great experience to continue to have, not being able to walk down the street. Just speaking of my experience, not other people with him. My problem with it is once you don't have the hit records anymore and you don't have the situation, you still got to walk down that same street. Those people still talk. They're not going to stop talking. And what happens is you now start to take their opinions of you as your opinion of you. So now if you don't have a record out and you're not famous and you don't got millions of followers, it's now them whispering that you fell off. You such and such and such. You ain't got no money. You such. So I had to go through that, which made me realize I don't want to be famous anymore because I don't want to have to deal with having to live up to your expectation of what success is. That's not my level of success. My success for me might be walking to, Saks right now and just spending 20,000 without nobody bothering me. But some people's success is, I don't care if I got money in your pocket. I would love to walk down the street and people stop him every 5 minutes. I get you. Both of them have their ups and downs. But for me, the reason why I didn't gravitate towards fame for my 15 minutes was that I didn't like how it felt when I wasn't the cat's meow and things weren't going right in my career as an artist. And I noticed that I needed to strengthen my mental capacity because I started to let what people were whispering about become my truth. Because I'm hearing them whispering and the rumors about me more than I'm hearing what God's saying about me. You feel me? What my peers are saying about me, what people in the industry saying about me. I'm listening to the street. But at the same time, can't be mad at them because when they were saying good things about you, you believed it, right? So now they're not saying good things no more. Now you got to work on how to not believe that. Well, let me start here. I shouldn't have even believed when they were saying the good things about me, right? And that's the danger of fame. You start to believe the hype. You start to believe what they're saying about you is true. You fart gold now, right? And when that's not happening no more, those same people are like, oh, he felt the same people telling you how great you are, telling you, oh, he garbage now. Huh? Y'all ain't hear what I just cooked up in the studio that ain't out yet? Y'all ain't hear what I've been writing behind closed doors? No, we haven't. We only know what the radio's playing and what the video's playing. Oh, so your reality of who I am is based on how popular I am in social media or television. I don't deserve that. I don't want that type of life. So for me, that's why I step away from fame. I know other people have other testimonies why they prefer or not prefer. But for me, I don't like the low is lower than the low and the high is not high enough for me. That low's too low and that high is not high enough. I get more of a high out of helping a young guy, close a deal for $1 million. Nobody even know I had nothing to do with it. And my check cleared. I'm high off that. We go to Mr. Childs and we go spend $2,000-$3,000 on some, you know what I mean, on some broccolini and sea bass. That's my high to see this young brother introduce him to the world for the first time based on him having a love for his craft. That's where I find fulfillment now, not me walking down the street and you saying, oh, he got that new record. Oh, that's that dude. I'm cool. But in defense of the young guys, I can talk like that because I experienced it. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but I only talk like this because I did experience. So don't let me usurp your moment and say, oh, he says you shouldn't be famous. It might go different for you. You might go become Drake. you might become Lil Wayne. It might be different for you. So I'm gonna be honest. Don't listen to me, but take me as an example of how it could go. And that's how it went for me.
Man, I love that, dude. And I appreciate you.
Sure,
Everything
man.
that you've been saying, dude, and answering our questions, man, it's from the heart, it's honest, and it's real. And I appreciate that. And it's something that all of the Ryze fam all over the planet can just get down with and appreciate, dude. And I
Sure.
thank you for that, man.
I
I
even,
love
as an artist myself, some things today. So yeah, I definitely appreciate you as well.
it works. But thanks so much, man. Peace out, and we'll see you later. All right.
Thank you.
All right, thank